Your manhood has never been tested before until you get married, and you need to understand it from a married perspective to understand what I'm talking about. So understand that we need positive male role models, masculine men to um, show us the way as far as marriage is concerned, but also what it means to be a man. And that's why I'm so big on economic empowerment, guys, because here's the thing. What you realize is that it's very difficult to be a man, to be a masculine man without resources, without an economic engine to support you. That is the most important thing I think we're missing in our world. That is why I wrote this book, guys. Revaluing America, back to the book. We need to change the way we are working together with each other, because it's very difficult to have masculinity present when you don't have resource present, when you don't have provision present. And even the most masculine men feel at a loss, and certainly feel a level of emasculation when they don't have the level of resource that they need to properly administer their manhood, administer their legacy, their family. And that's why, to me, legacy is justice. Because if you want me to consider any justice done in America, then you must allow me to build my legacy. And in order to build my legacy, I need appropriate level of resources to do that. And I'm demanding it, and we're going to demand it. We're going to demand that we revalue America, because if we don't, we will have no legacy, guys. And that is what we must get to. I didn't say you didn't have to work hard and build businesses. Don't forget that. We need to think about how we're going to get there. We can't just demand it in cash payment, but revaluing our work, revaluing our contribution, and having the right to negotiate from a fair perspective, a fair, balanced basis based on our contribution to the economic engine that we support. We should have the opportunity to increase our level of participation in the economy. But the fact remains that having a level of masculinity requires having a level of resource. And that's what marriage requires. And we are taking and stealing the legacy of marriage from our people every day, that they don't have the resource, the appropriate resource um, to get married and support a family. And my heart breaks for the people who don't have that opportunity. It is very challenging in this lifetime to live this way. Um, so we need to do something about it, guys. It's very challenging. I want to even expand on that, and I might as well take the moment now here on my show. If you're watching, thank you. But if you're not, then it's just my show anyway. We can talk about whatever it is that we want to. And guess what? I like it here. So look, the thing is, we're not asking for a revolution. We're asking for um we're asking for a true up. We're asking for a fair distribution. We're asking for a we're asking for a revaluation, right? Revalue. Um, and I think about it, and I think about what we're going through as a people, and how difficult it is to uh have a level of masculinity in marriage when you don't have a level of economic power. And our women are not wrong for wanting the things of life that they see, that they have access to, but don't have the economic resource to afford. And having access means that you can look and window shop, but being able to afford something is a whole different thing. So when you think about the laws and the things that we do that make things more accessible to more people, we still have to remember the constraint, the economic constraints that people are facing, and consider that when we consider access, because that's the key, guys. And I can relate very much to every man's struggle. Sure, have I been more fortunate than the average person? Yes, but with that, when Jay-Z said, "You don't know my expenses. I gotta buy a bigger place." and more baggies. Why you all Aggie? My guy, respect the game. That should be it. What you eat don't make me shit, because that's the truth, right? You don't understand my expenses. So you can't judge my life. You can't sit here and think that you know. I have 4 children and a wife and a family. And the more money you make, the more money you have to make to keep up your lifestyle. So understand that you can't think about it from that perspective. What you have to do is read this book and understand what I'm talking about in this book, so you can understand the value that you bring at your work, and then ask for appropriate value in return in cash. Because what we have to understand, see, remember back when you were a kid and your mom taught you how to go to the store, and you had to go to the store and you had to give money and you got back what you got and you never left until you got fair value. You got, if you had $1, you made sure you always got a dollar's worth of goods back right away. It's always a fair exchange, right? That way, no one can say you stole it. No one can say that you did, the money wasn't there. Fair exchange. Always remember that's what you're doing when you're dealing with, you're just fair exchanging. Barter system was trying to fair exchange it, and what they thought was that the dollars would help you fair exchange it more evenly, right? Imagine having a toaster and a table. What's more valuable? Well, it depends on what you need more. But all things being equal, and it depends on what time we're talking. In 1920, a toaster was probably more valuable than the table, because it was probably hard to get the toaster. Now today, it depends on what kind of table, but I would imagine the table would be more valuable than the toaster. So it's hard to make that even fair, even Steven exchange. So the dollars were designed to help you appropriately value things and get more exact. But what it did was, unfortunately, just let people get more lazy in their evaluation of value, right? Because now they don't think about it. It's easy to inflate things that people want badly, and it's easy to, not truly understand what the dollar that you're exchanging is even worth. That's the key we have to think about. So I could go on about that, but that's where we're missing it, and we're missing it completely when we think about how many dollars we're being paid for being the underpinning of the entire system, for getting our dollars on a biweekly basis where we have no future commitment of dollars, for being taxed the most and uncontrollably, for being taxed from a sales tax perspective. After we pay taxes, we go and pay more tax on it from a sales tax on our money, on our goods, everything we purchase, right? So, and in a right to work state where you have no rights beyond your job as it stands in that moment. So you think about what you're underpinning, and that's just the start. We didn't even talk about the contribution and the necessity of your work, whether you're a skilled worker or essential worker. We didn't even get started talking about that. You literally are the underpinning of our entire economy, and you're being paid per diem for you and your labor and your body and your support to this firm, this company, this government, and you have to support your family based on that. You don't understand the value that you bring. That's why I had to write the book. I wrote the book. It's pretty thick. It's an easy read, though. I didn't pack the pages with words. But what I'm trying to say is this. You have to understand the value that you bring to your situation, and you have to get fair compensation for it. Because I'll tell you this. Every time I go in the store, I know you can relate to this. Every time I go into the store, why does it feel like they raise the prices on everything? Every little thing. It's more inflation, inflation, inflation. You can't go and buy a box of straws without it being more than you ever could imagine you pay for straws. The littlest things that you might need, they go up by 30 and 40% at a time, especially the small value. We don't understand percentage in this country. We don't understand how easy it is to see, and that's another business idea, but again, you got to be in the business of doing that kind of business. Small priced items, guys, are probably the easiest way to make a lot of money, because you can easily raise the absolute value or the absolute price of the good that you're selling by a small amount, but it's a big percentage gain, right? Like think about if you sell something for $1, right? And then you raise it to $1.50. People that purchase what you buy or purchase what you sell might not think anything of that 50 cents, but you just raised your price by 50%. You just made 50% more. Whereas though if you were selling something for $1,000, it'd be hard to raise that 50% without people noticing it. And that's what you're facing every time you go to the store. Every time you go to the store, you're facing the situation of somebody raising the prices on you, and for no good reason, on every little thing. You have to find a way, guys, to get back what you deserve. Interest rates hit you harder than anybody. You don't have any money to borrow. When something happens at your house and you need $25,000, no one is there to give it to you. But a company, very wealthy person, they have stacks and stacks of cash. And if they don't, they have a bank that's going to give it. And if they don't, they can go get a situation from the government. And in my other show, we talk about institutional access. We didn't even get to touching that, guys. We could go on. Listen. And see, all this started from what? Marriage, which is the institution, the number one institution. It's the first institution. And that's how we have to start to understand our lives, the institution, the masculinity, the resource, the patriarchy, the provision, right? The money, how it's all connected, and we don't get it. And we're out here toiling away for hourly work, not realizing that we literally are the backstop to this great nation. And I just find it amazing that we can rack up $40 trillion in debt and we don't have any access to it. We have no ability to borrow on behalf of the United States, on behalf of our citizenship, on behalf of our labor and our contribution and our production. We have no ability to borrow on that, but they borrow on that every time they issue a treasury note. They are borrowing on the back of your ability to continue to work hard and pay taxes. So, I just find it amazing that we are citizens of this country and we don't have access to the currency. We don't have access to resources. And that's what we need to be thinking about as we revalue America, because if we don't revalue America, I'm going to tell you this, we are not going to get any of the promise. The American dream is gone. We will never, ever see a version of the American dream that is ours, that we can hold on to and hope for. This book is just as much of an economic book as it is a national security crisis that we are in and facing. And we need to think about how we are being impacted by this unfair economic system that leaves us to toil for our wages and use every single dime of wages that we do earn into keeping ourselves and keeping our lives going forward without any chance to build a level of security and any chance to build any legacy whatsoever.